want to feel that you have a degree of control over events in your life, over people, over your future. Any struggle, any fight you're going on in your life, you need to win with the minimum amount of resistance. Absolute power corrupts, but absolute powerless corrupts even more. You could know all of the strategies, you could have a lot of knowledge, but if you don't fight these mental habits, none of it's worth nothing. The closer you're able to get to reality, to what is really going on in a situation, to what people are doing to you or what is happening around you, the better your strategies will be. If you can't control yourself, then you're in a lot of trouble in this world. If you don't learn from your own experiences, then they have no value to you. And so you have to. Power is a feeling, it's an essence, it's an emotion. It's a human need and desire. And really, what power is a sense of understanding yourself and being able to control yourself. I like to look at it not through the lens of great power politics, but as an average, everyday human being here in the United States or in England. The feeling that you have with your children, with your spouse, with your colleagues, the people who work for you, the sense that you have no control, that you can't influence them with your ideas, that you can't get them to maybe, soften some of their ugly behavior if they have that you can't get them interested in helping you with a project or whatever, is the most miserable feeling a human being can have. Malcolm X had a quote that I love, which is, "Absolute power corrupts, but absolute powerless corrupts even more." The feeling of powerlessness is actually more corrupting than the feeling of having a lot of power. It turns people into being passive aggressive, into playing all kinds of weird games, negative games to get power. You want to feel that you have a degree of control over events in your life, over people, over your future. And that to me is what power is, right? And so the sense that I'm not helpless in this world. I remember when I first entered the work world as a very naive college graduate with all these ideals and things I'd read because I studied literature and languages, going, man, this is weird. People are playing all these kind of games. I'm in over my head. I made mistakes. I got fired for being, too brash, for outshine the master. It was painful. And so learning, you don't have to abuse the loss of power. I don't advocate crushing your enemy totally. I hope I don't have any enemies ever that I need to crush ever. You just need to know these things so that when you enter the work world, you're not naive, you're not stupid, you don't make the same kind of mistakes that I made. You spare yourself the pain. You understand the most fundamental thing about human nature. People have egos. Even your boss has an ego. You think he or she doesn't because they're powerful. They're even more insecure than other people. You need to be aware of these things so that you don't inadvertently make them feel insecure and suffer the consequences. If you can't control yourself, then you're in a lot of trouble in this world, right? Because when you just naturally are yourself doing things, you're going to offend people. You learn early on we're social animals. I have to tailor my behavior, If you go on babbling about how you feel and think, etc., and you just say what's the first thing on your mind, you're going to end up having a very, very short career. You're going to be saying things that are going to offend people. You're going to be making a fool of yourself. You're going to be saying things that you end up regretting, right? So you have no self-control. And if you see somebody who has no self-control, it makes you look like you're not powerful. If you can't control yourself, how can you control anything in your environment? How can you be a leader, right? So you have to learn certain things about your nature, about who you are, and not just be anybody. You have to kind of tailor your appearances as well. Because for good or for bad, I'm a believer in looking at the human animal without shame and embarrassment, just as we are, right? And appearances matter. It's the animal part of our nature. We judge people by how they appear, how they dress, their tone of voice, their body language, etc., etc. It would be, in an ideal world, we wouldn't judge people by appearances. We would just judge them by what's inside of them. Yes, I agree with that. But that we're not ideal. We're not descended from angels. We're descended from primates. So you have to understand that appearances matter. And this is part of the game. And so you have to control your appearances a little bit. You have to tailor it. You have to be a bit of actor in this world, on and on and on. You know, these are things that people don't like to admit about ourselves. We like to think that we're much more idealistic, that these things really don't matter in the end. And I wish it were that way, but it's not. And so I'm a bit more of a realist when it comes to things like that. But yeah. I talk about it in the 48 Laws of Power, where you have to play this game in life. To me, it's a form of wisdom. It's a wisdom that used to exist like in the 18th century. I read a book that had a big impact on me many years ago called The Fall of Public Man by Richard Sennett, in which he described like cafe life in London in the 18th century or France. And he was saying back then, when you entered the public arena or your cafe, you knew you were an actor. You left the house, you put on a mask, and you had fun. You know, you knew it was like fun. It was play. You know, when you're a child, you like playing games. You like putting on costumes. You like playing your parents or some character you saw on TV. It's part of human nature. We like to play these games. We're role players. We're actors. And he was saying in the 18th century, that was just a given in life. That when you entered the public realm, you knew you were an actor. And then when you went home to your wife, your family, or your husband, or wherever, you drop the mask, you breathe a deep sigh of relief, go, now I can be who I am, right? And it wasn't a problem. It didn't create neuroses. It didn't create this like, what's wrong with me? I don't know who I am anymore. The problem now is we don't have distance from that social realm. And so we think that if we're acting, that's who we are. But it's not. It's just that's part of being a social animal, is playing a role. You know, I did a book with 50 Cent, and he kind of exemplifies a lot of that. He plays a role in life. You know, when I met him, I thought, I was kind of intimidated. I was a little bit afraid. You know, the thug. This is a guy, when I met him, he was, you know, just a few years away from being shot and all this stuff. And I met him, and he was the nicest person in the world. He was almost kind of sweet. You'd hate it if I said that word, but he was sweet, right? He was very down to earth. He was very calm, etc. He's playing a role when he goes out and he plays that person, and he knows it. He knows it's like, he doesn't take it seriously. So what I tell people is, we all are actors. Humans are born actors. We learn at a very early age to play that kind of game. It's kind of fun sometimes to do that, you know? Enjoy that part of life, but don't get it confused with who you are in your essence. That's sort of the dance you're playing between those two things. And one of the worst things that people do is, you're out in the work world and you need to hire somebody. You need to find a colleague. You need to find a partner or an employee. Your mind naturally gravitates towards a friend, because they know you, you trust them, you have a relationship, you know, and you feel comfortable with them. And it's a terrible mistake. So many of the worst things that have happened in history are because of that very problem. Because friends, there's all these emotions involved between people, right? And those emotions confuse the issue. So what I'm talking about in that law is, when you need to get results, you need to think, when you have a job or something, you have to think in practical terms, not in terms of emotions, not in terms of friendship, et cetera, et cetera. So you want to keep your work world separate. It's not everything about life is having to be friends and having nice things and everybody like you. Sometimes what matters is getting results done. And sometimes the best person to work with isn't your friend, because they don't have all this other stuff that we're talking about. In fact, a very powerful move is, if there's an enemy out there, somebody who you never got along with, if you approach them and say, let's bury the hatchet. You know, I have a job and I'd really like you to work with me. I know you're really smart. The turnaround of emotions is a very powerful thing where they're going, wow, yeah, sure, that's great. I never expected that. And they're highly motivated to now prove that they're worthy of your change of mind. So it's not about not trusting your friends in the realm of friendship in personal relationships. It's about being aware that the work world is different from the realm of personal relationships.
Everything starts with your own mind. So strategy is a mental process. And I talk about there in the first part of the book that you're at war with certain parts of your mind that constantly present obstacles. And you could know all of the strategies, you could have a lot of knowledge, but if you don't fight these mental habits, none of it's worth nothing. Well, Sun Tzu was a genius, and the reason, I mean, his book has stood the test of time, 2,500 years, he's still read to this day. And he has a concept where he defines the art of war, which I believe will never be surpassed, and he says the art of war is basically to win with minimum bloodshed and minimum violence. An army that goes in and mows down the enemy and kills a lot of people and destroys a city simply creates escalating cycles of violence. So the whole game in war is to win with the minimum amount of bloodshed and the minimum amount of violence, and a strategist must try and get as close as possible to that ideal. Any struggle, any fight you're going on in your life, you need to win with the minimum amount of resistance. The second thing is, I always believe, I have chapters in the Power book and in this book, that the structure of something, the way you form it, the form or structure itself, is actually an incredibly important decision, very strategic in itself. And I'm trying to communicate in different ways. I'm trying to communicate with an image, as you say, with sort of stimulating thoughts from all different directions. So it's all very conscious. The closer you're able to get to reality, to what is really going on in a situation, to what people are doing to you or what is happening around you, the better your strategies will be. And the main block that you have to understanding, to being as close as possible to this reality, is yourself, your mind, your emotions. You tend to see what you want to see in the world. Your feelings of hatred or love or lust or greed, they're constantly coloring what you see in very subtle ways. And so the process for a strategist is to get rid of as much of that emotions that is coloring your viewpoint and getting the capacity to see the world for what it is. On the other side, Sun Tzu talks about it, you want to make it harder for your opponents to see reality. You want them to be mistaking things, to deceive them. But you yourself have to get your mind as close as possible to what is really happening. And so I'm saying in life, it's not a question of beating yourself up and saying, why did I do this? Why did I do that? It's a matter of being more realistic. And if you begin to think of yourself as the master of your own destiny, you're the master strategist commanding your own army, it's actually a very empowering, liberating idea, as opposed to something where you just sort of beat yourself down and get down on yourself. It's more the fact that anytime something goes wrong in life, you can look at it and say, you were responsible for that in some way. You could have done things differently. Go back, analyze what you did in this mistake you made whenever, and see, if I had done A instead of B, it would have turned out differently. And I think you can do this for any decisions that you have in life. Your morale, how you feel about yourself, is very important. Life is full of battle all of the time. You can't go into battle with negative feelings, feeling that you don't have confidence. So your own confidence, your own self-esteem has incredible importance in how you end up going to warfare. So the idea is just to be realistic and to learn from your experiences. If you don't learn from your own experiences, then they have no value to you. And so you have to constantly assess, this is what I did in this situation, this was right and this was wrong. And I think that's a very powerful tool. I think this is one of the most important chapters in the book. And I think it's the foundation of any good strategist, is your capacity to let go of the past and to not fight the last war. And what that means is the last war will have two effects on you. Either, if it was a defeat, it will bring you down and you'll become more timid and you'll carry that into your next battle and you'll become cautious and worried, etc. Number two, if it was a victory, you will become elated, you will become drunk on your own success, and you will think, I just have to repeat what I did the last time, which is a great mistake, and lots of mistakes in warfare have been because of that. We all want to recapture our childhood. But a lot of times we think of that, we want to recapture our good looks or that kind of happy feeling we had when we were children. I'm saying what you really want to recapture from your childhood is your mind. The fact that you had this very fluid mind that was open to experiences, that could take things in for what they were and learn from them and absorb. That kind of mental fluidity is the foundation of any great strategist. And oddly enough, the greatest of them all, like Napoleon, Hannibal, they all had this kind of childlike capacity to just simply take what was coming at them and not bring their own preconceptions to what was going on.